knowing everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Franklin Lanier. I am the adult ministries pastor here at First Free Church, and I want to welcome you all to the Connected Families Workshop, known as The Power of Questions. I want to thank you for joining us, whether you are here in person or joining us through live stream. And I want to let you know that this is a joint effort. It is not just the children's ministry, nor is it just the adult ministry. It's a joint effort between the two ministries, because what we've come to realize is that this is a family thing. It involves adults and children. The institution of family is being challenged more than ever. We have external pressures to conform to a shaky cultural paradigm, and sometimes we have these internal clashings of personalities. Solidarity in the family is more important than ever. So how do we quell contention and pursue a more effective way of interacting with our children? Well, it's the power of questions. Today you'll learn how to grow wisdom and responsibility in kids, how to ask effective questions, how to start or respond during hard conversations, and what to do when kids respond defensively. After the workshop, if you're interested in more information, there will be a time for questions and comments. The first 15 inquiries will receive a Chick-fil-A voucher for a free chicken sandwich, donated by Chick-fil-A, of course. Carrie and Belle will have microphones ready here up front for anyone who has questions here in person. Now, if you're joining us through the live stream, the best way to ask a question is to email Abby Beard at abeard, A-B-E-A-R-D, at firstefc.org. Now, a little bit about our presenter, Stacy Bellward. Stacy has walked thousands of parents through all of the Connected Families online courses, encouraging them, asking thoughtful questions, and nudging them toward new thinking. Her favorite is finding and celebrating the small wins with parents. We love our small wins, too. A speaker, Stacy is real and brings stories of her own, raising 2 high schoolers, 20-year multicultural marriage, adoption, and learning in ever-increasing ways to trust God with it all. Stacy is a certified leadership coach, Bible study teacher, award-winning author, Connected Families podcast host, and a soccer mom. The next voice you hear will be Stacy Bellward. Give her a warm welcome to First Free Church.
Thank you, Pastor Frank. Thank you, Pastor Frank, and thank you, Stephen, for organizing this and having Connected Families here at First Evangelical Free. I am so glad to be here. But what that intro didn't say is that I'm also a basketball mom and a cheerleading mom and a volleyball mom and a drum player mom. I don't know, all of those things. But the way we keep it sane is that it's only one at a time per kid. That's our own little family rule. So I do a lot of things, just like all of you. We all do a lot of things, and we're all spinning a lot of plates in our lives, aren't we? And especially nowadays with COVID. So thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on a 65-degree day, you guys. Like, for real. Like, I understand what that's all about here in Minnesota. So thanks for coming, and thanks to everybody who's joining us online. We're glad you're here, and your voice is going to be heard today. So we have someone watching it, and we want to hear your questions and comments, too. I was born a teller. My mom tells me that I came out of the womb knowing what everyone should do and when. In fact, I can remember leaving for college and literally thinking this, gosh, okay, so I'm the oldest of 4, that's what you should know first, and this is what I was thinking as I was leaving. Like, I just don't know what they're going to do without me. I think my whole family's going to fall apart. Because evidently, I'm like holding it all together. Oh my goodness. So I'm also firstborn, so anyone that follows personality stuff, that that fits, right? Well, being a teller with my kids, it only took about 4 years to realize that that wasn't working so well. Because being a teller really also means you need a lot of control. Think you know what's right and what's best all the time. And when, if you have more than one child, then you know that you have a child that's going to resist that, that control and that telling all the time. And so there became some power clashes really quickly. But let me introduce you. Listen, let me say, first, I've been at Connected Families for about 5 years, and I do lots of things there, but it's just one of the best jobs I've ever had. I just love it, and it has literally saved my parenting. I tell Jim and Lynn, our founders, who we're all from the Twin Cities area, by the way, I tell them, like, I think that I should have paid you to let me work for you, for real. So I'm an end user of everything that I teach, and we do all of the workshops. I do all of the workshops, but it's because I 100% believe in it, and it has transformed our family. So, and this is my family. I'm gonna skip through a couple slides. I'm trying to change the slides, so my family's gonna come up momentarily. I don't think I did anything to the clicker. There we go. We're gonna have to get this clicker. I'm moving through. Okay, you already got me. There's my family. Yay. So my oldest was born in Ethiopia, adopted. That's my Scottish husband with an accent. That's the intercultural part of it. Our second came along biologically. That was planned. And that is my family. And those are my beautiful girls. That was a few years ago. They're now 17 and 15. So I've got a driver in the house. Actually, 2. The other one has a permit. Yeah. So let me just start off with our content. If you have a worksheet, the worksheet that was along, you can grab that. But why questions? I already told you that I'm a teller, so you know the opposite of asking is telling. But why would Connected Families spend so much time putting together? We have an online course, I'll tell you about it, that me and Chad Henge wrote. Why would we put so much effort towards this? And the reason is because we are faith people, and just like you, and we love Jesus, and we want to follow his example. And in the Bible, there are 307 recorded questions that Jesus asked. So we want to be question askers. Now, let me say this also. Well, let me ask you a question. Did Jesus know the answer to those questions? He did, didn't he? It's recorded, 307 questions that he asked that he knew the answer to. So that's a good preface for this workshop. Well, excuse me. Here's the question that I want to ask you also. Are the patterns of telling that we are often using in our house, are they working? And I'm going to answer that for us too right now and say, I don't think they're working for us. And here's the first pattern that could be happening in your home. It was happening in my home. And the first pattern is that oftentimes parents are simply snorkeling. And what does snorkeling represent? It means surfacey thinking, surfacey seeing, and a surfacey perspective of what's going on in our home. Now, what that looked like to me was I would walk through the house and I would pass the door and I would be like, backpack on the floor again, shoes all over the place, where, the coat's not on the hook. And then I would walk into the kitchen and I'd be like, look in the dishwasher's empty, it's, dirty, ready for dirty dishes, but where are the dirty dishes? They're on the counter. And I would think, seriously, do I have to tell my kids everything every time? Well, the truth was that if that was our pattern, that is what was happening. But for me, it was surfacey. It was just simply looking at the behavior in my home. All right, seeing what's just right in front of us. The second pattern is that parents tell. Parents tell a lot. The thing is that telling turns to nagging, the telling over and over again, and then sometimes even the yelling, That's just not getting the desired results that we want, is it? I'm gonna just fix this. Sorry, guys, it's popping out of my ears and then not. So why do we tell? Why do we have this pattern of telling? And I think there's really two reasons. One is that telling is quick and easy. Just quick and easy, and we need to get to it. So this week, my daughter was invited to her aunt's house to hang out and play, and also had a birthday party. Just quick and easy to just tell the answer. Well, I think you should do this, versus ask a question. We're going to get into that later. I think the second reason that parents tell is that telling vents anger and frustration. So think about a parent goes and does some errands for a couple hours and comes back, and their child had just spent 2 hours in front of the screen playing video games the entire time. So I'm angry and I'm disappointed, and I'm going to vent that by just telling. And so I had one parent tell me in a workshop, I could just TED talk my children all day long. Right? I need to tell you that your brain is going to get fried and you're not going to have any social skills if this is what you want to do. So this is why we tell sometimes, but it's not effective. And here are some reasons why it's not effective. Because number one, it doesn't engage a child's thinking. I'm telling him. The second reason is it doesn't grow wisdom. It doesn't grow wisdom, and it doesn't grow self-ownership of the situation. Or if you have a more passive child, they'll just do, okay, I'll just do what mom or dad want me to do. The next reason is that it also doesn't grow responsibility, because it says, actually, I'm responsible, the parent. I'm responsible to get you to do what you need to do. You're only responsible to really know the tone of voice that mom or dad has, to know exactly when you need to move. Up to that point, mom's just responsible and she'll keep talking, or dad, and then your job is to know when I've hit the limit. That's what you're responsible for. Which means that when we're tellers, it really opens the door or easily creates this power struggle between the parent and the child. The child can really quickly say, no, I don't want to, which gets us to the next pattern, and that is the tug-of-war match. And I don't know if you can see the words on that. Take out the trash, the mom's saying, and then snagging, take out the trash. Take out the trash. And what the child is on the other side of that tug-of-war rope. No, I don't want to. So pretty soon the actual thing that they need to be responsible for, or sometimes it's a wisdom-growing conversation about something important, is in the middle. The issue is in the middle, and it's a tug-of-war between the parent and the child to go back and forth. It could sound like this. So maybe the child's job is to feed the dog every day. And so dad comes down, the dad sees, the dog is not fed again. Why do I have to tell this child every single day to do his job? So what does the dad says? Sam, get down here right now. The dog is not fed again. Well, Sam's upstairs in his room and hears the tone of voice. And so if Sam is a fighter or a flighter, either one, he's starting to armor up, right? Because he's starting to feel attacked. So if he's come down and he's a fighter, he comes down, Dad, you know I'm going to get to it. I'm sorry. But you know, I was doing my homework and you want me to do my homework, don't you? And you can hear the pattern, because then the dad's, you don't talk to me that way, and it starts going back and forth. And is the matter the garbage anymore, or holding the child responsible? It's not. And so that's a demonstration of the tug of war that is often a pattern that we have in our homes. So the question for this workshop is this: how can we end that tug of war and have wisdom-growing conversations that bring responsibility? How can we have wisdom-growing conversations that bring responsibility? It's possible. We had a mom go through the Power of Questions, the online course that we have, and she wrote me an email. This was actually just a couple of weeks ago. And she said, I have an 11-year-old daughter that's very sensitive to power over or control issues. But we also had a problem around cleaning the bathroom. Okay, so I followed what you taught in the course, which is actually a lot more than I'm going to be able to cover right now. And I called her and I said, hey, can we have a discussion about this task, the bathroom? And in the email, she said she resisted. Like, it wasn't like she wanted to jump into this conversation very fast. But we went through the chores. We went through the list of what it would mean to have a clean bathroom. We decided when it was going to happen, and we wrote it all down. And she said in the email, when it came to Saturday, it was such a joy not to nag and not to have to nag. So I'm telling you that story because there is so much hope to change the tone of those three I'm so sorry about this. Okay, those three patterns that are happening sometimes in homes. So here's the first shift. We want to move that snorkeling to scuba diving. Okay, we want to move from the surfacey thinking, seeing perspective to a scuba diving perspective. So what does that mean? It means I want to dive deeper. I want to look under the surface of my child's behavior. I want to have a heart attitude of exploration, not judgment. I want to be curious. Curious. And to be truly curious means that I need to set aside the need to be right. I need to set aside the need to be right. I want to focus on my child. All right, now think about when you're snorkeling, you're on the surface. Think about scuba diving. I don't know if any of you are licensed, certified scuba divers, but you've watched National Geographic, so we can all go there together, right? So, they dive down, and they're just relaxed, and they're exploring, and they're seeing, and they might camp out in front of like that big reef or something, and they're just looking, or maybe they see a turtle, and they're just there with this curious, peaceful heart to see what's going to come and notice the beauty of the place that they're in. Okay, so I want to suggest to you that curiosity is kind of like the oxygen tank. All right? They have to strap on that oxygen tank. That oxygen tank is curiosity. So I want you to just have that picture in your mind through the rest of this workshop. We're strapping on the oxygen tank of curiosity so that we can dive down deeper to understand, to explore what's going on underneath the surface of our children. All right? So now, here's just a tip, you might know this, but if you're diving, if you're scuba diving, people who dive scared, stressed, they use like twice as much oxygen as people who are relaxed. Twice as much oxygen, right? So they're down there, and if they're just scared, they're not wondering, they're wondering what's going to happen, and they're not peaceful, they're going to use up their oxygen, and when their oxygen gets used up, all mayhem breaks loose, right? Like someone is going to die in that moment unless they get to the surface. Now think about the situations in our home, and let's just apply that. So say, you have your middle schooler, and your middle schooler has a history test tomorrow. And the middle schooler is starting to mess around. They are just not sitting down, they're not buckling down, and they are not getting that test studied for. And so parent is feeling stressed. Like what? Like the more minutes that pass, the more they see a big F on the paper or a D, or maybe it starts with a C, and every minute that goes by, it gets lower. Now it's a D, now it's an F, right? My oxygen tank is getting very depleted. And so someone's gonna die. And then it's like big explosion, okay? This is what I'm saying. So instead, let's strap on that oxygen tank. Let's have a conversation. Hey, son, do you see what time it is? Yeah, it's 7:30. What time is bedtime tonight? 8:30. How much time do you have to study for your test? An hour. So tell me, what are you hoping to get on that test tomorrow? And what's it going to take? Do you need help? What do you need? What do you need right now to get that done? And then we just can't freak out when he says, I don't care, I just want to see. Okay? Because that's happened. All right? So as we strap on that oxygen tank, I can stay peaceful, and I can stay calm, and I can stay curious to be able to ask questions instead of losing it, and then mayhem breaks out in that moment. Here's the thing, that oxygen, that curiosity is the core of our conversation. It means that we can have a conversation that is safe and lighthearted. And I would like to just say, don't enter into these bigger conversations unless you have that safe and lighthearted conversation. There is so much under the surface of our kids. So much under there to discover, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that means we need to do work with what's going on in me. I know that Connected Families has come to you before. We do a lot of work around that question in other online courses, but what's going on in me? What judgments do I have? And I want to lay aside those judgments, and I want to see my children actually the way Jesus sees me. He sees us. He takes us as we are, whatever is down deep, whatever is inside of us. He takes that, and he wants to use it. The opposite of curious and lighthearted is judgmental. That's controlling. It causes us parents to be controlling, and we don't want that. We want to be like Ephesians 2:5, where even when we were dead in our trespasses, he made us alive together with Christ. God is so for us. He is so for what we will be. We want to be so for our kids and for what they will be in their lives. Another thing that God put together in this great kingdom of Christ is that we need each other. We need each other. God's plan for growth includes other people. So Hebrews 10:24 says, and let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, encouraging one another. Consider means sit around and think about. So as parents, as we sit around and think about how to encourage our kids to love and good deeds, even when the good deeds start as homework or chores or keeping their room clean or all these things, we want to really think about what are the motivations of our kids. And in light of that, I just want to show you this quote from Tony Stoltzfus. He's a Christian leadership coach, and he says this. He's written lots of books. I love him. He says, people don't accept critique from people who are not in their corner. People are most open to being influenced by those who accept and value them. We get that, right? We get that. We don't want to play for a sports coach who's like, this kid's crap, whatever, and then take critique. We don't like taking critique from people who we don't feel like are really for us and supporting us. We do take it from people who we know care about us and are for us. All right. I am going to pass on this breakout. Here's the shift. Us coaches, I think that was in my bio, but I'm a certified coach, which is partly why I love this topic so much and got to practice all my skills on my kids from the beginning. We love the word shift. There's lots of shifts. So the first shift that we want to do is we want to move from tell to ask. We want to move from tell to ask. Here's the question for you, parents. How many times do you ask your kids a question that they know the answer? How many times do you tell your kids things that they know the answer to? How many times do we tell our kids things that they know the answer to? Okay, it's time to get your jammies on. Go get your jammies on. Get your shoes on. It's time to get in the car. Get in the car. We tell them all these things all the time that they know. How about Don't take your socks off. I hear my sister say that all the time with her 4-year-old. Don't take your socks off. Oh, I think that's funny. We can laugh once our kids get older, right? At the stages beforehand. All right. Here's the impact of curious and light-hearted asking. It prevents a parent's quick reactions. That whole me versus you battle, it shuts it down really quick because we're asking our kids to use wisdom to answer questions. And because of that, it changes brain patterns. It changes brain patterns. Questions engage a child's brain. They actually engage the parent's brain also, but they engage our brain and they grow wisdom. Neuroscience supports the idea that asking relaxed, that's curious and lighthearted questions, keeps the brain out of fight or flight. It grows wisdom. So when a person is asked a helpful question, their entire brain starts to get activated. It releases serotonin, which is this calming, good feeling that they have. And then they start getting insight from all the different places of their brain. So there's neural pathways starting to develop all around it. This causes new connections to be made, but they especially start to access the frontal lobe, which is the language and the logic part. Now, as soon as all of those connections are starting to be made, that's wisdom, because now they can go back to those connections later, which those connections just mean wisdom, the things that they're thinking about. All right, third shift that we want to make is a shift from the tug of war to teamwork. This is what it's all about, you guys. This is the major shift from telling to asking. We want a culture of teamwork in our homes. It says, I'm for you. I care more about you than I care about this situation right now. It says, I believe that you are called and you're capable. It says that Ephesians 2:10 is true, and I believe it. I believe that you are a workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which you are called to do. It says, I want your opinions. God created you with good ideas, and I want to hear them. And I believe that even you at 4 years old might have a solution that could solve our problem right now. So I want to ask you a question, and I value your opinion. And I value what God has put in you. So what does that look like in our house? These kind of conversations happen all the time over all sorts of different things. So I told you that my oldest is driving now, which means this is the first school year that I haven't had to drive my kids to school every day. Right? But I have kids in my home that have very different personalities. Betcha you do too. So my oldest wants to literally get up and walk out the door and slide into school just as the bell rings. And guess what? The second one doesn't. She really likes to take her time and get to school and have time. So we had to have a meeting. We have a problem to solve. Let's sit together and let's solve this problem. I sure could have told. I could have said, no, you guys need to leave 15 minutes before, and that's the right thing to do. You know, just because you're the driver doesn't mean you just get to dictate. But they had that meeting. Or we had another meeting because wet towels on the on the bathroom floor all the time. So there are bathroom towels everywhere. We have a problem to solve. How do you want to solve it, you guys? Let's talk about this. What would be a good solution that would make you both happy for how you deal with wet towels? All right, every day are opportunities to ask our kids questions and say, hey, how would you solve this? I don't need to tell. When your kids come to know that you will approach them from a safe place, they won't need their guard up to defend themselves. It really does end the arguing, and it grows wisdom and responsibility. And let me say, this is the tone that will grow our relationships our whole lives. our whole lives with our kids. We want to have this type of tone in our conversations with them. This tone transformed the conversation, especially around faith in my family. So one of my girls really, she didn't just swallow all the faith conversation from when she was little. She was a bit of a doubter and a questioner, you know? And I realized really early on that this could be a me versus you. This could be a me versus you. And if it was a me versus you, then her coming to faith, surrendering her life to Jesus meant that I would win. And I never wanted that. So to step back and put on my oxygen tank and be lighthearted and curious on a conversation on a topic that I cared so deeply about and cared so deeply that she would believe the same thing as me, took work. It took work. But when the doubting questions came, or I don't think Jesus hears my prayers, or, there was, comments like that would just get thrown out, was I going to trigger a need to fix this right now? Or was I going to pull back and ask a question? Say, yeah, like what's under that? What makes you say that? And ask questions. That was a big deal. Because the day she did surrender her life to the Lord, again, I was able to say, this is your decision, not mine. Are you ready? So what I'm teaching you today about this conversation and the curious, lighthearted, safe core of the conversation is significant. Not just about taking out the trash or getting the room cleaned or all these things. There are weighty conversations that we want to have with our kids, and we want the influence to be able to have those. I just want to take a silent minute, and I want you to jot down notes about what could possibly be going on under the surface of your kids. We can't know for sure, but we can think about it, and it's a exercise of going deeper. So think socially. How's your child receiving or perceiving social interactions in their world right now? What about spiritually? What's your child understanding about faith or circumstances? How are circumstances affecting your child right now? Let's just take a silent minute. You might even want to jot them down so you could work on it later too. Depending on how many kids you have a lot of work to do, huh? Start with one and go through, because it will be different answers for each one of them and each one of the kids. We put together what we call a conversation model. There's nothing like there's no rocket science behind this at all, but it's just a good model to think through having these conversations. So I want to talk through it a little bit right now. We start with the first thing is ask, but that is given that we've already covered safe and lighthearted. Okay, we already have our oxygen tank on. We've already set aside our need to be right. We have dove down under the surface and we're really asking ourselves what's going on underneath my child. I'm putting aside my own judgments of the moment and being as curious as I can to start this conversation with my child. And so then I ask a question when the time is right. reading our children. I ask the question, it says, I believe you are capable. I want to know what's going on in you and how you would answer my question. It's curious and it's lighthearted. And from there, we move to listening. We listen to understand, not necessarily to agree. We're just listening to understand what our child wants to say. This is building trust. This is building teamwork. And from there, well, we probably have something to say right there already. Our kids don't have to say much before we already have like something that we really want to communicate to our kids. But what I want to say is before you start telling, let's move up and ask more questions. Get greater insight into what's going on in our kids. Remember, we want to understand, not necessarily to agree. So here's a tip that you might even write down. I like to use this one. It's a coaching tip. And I start off my ask more section of the conversation with it seems like, or it sounds like. You can use this with everybody. Seems like you really like glitter. What do you like about glitter? It sounds like you have some big feelings about this. So it seems like, and it sounds like are good ones. So from there, we listen more. Ooh, I'm missing a slide. From there, we go back around, we listen more, and then when the time is right, we respond. When the time is right, we respond. Now, there is, I want to be really clear in this workshop that there is always going to be things that parents need to say. Right? In Deuteronomy 6:7, parents are mandated. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts and press them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. This is our job as parents. In no way here today that I'm saying to you that there's no place for you to tell. There's absolutely a time for you to tell. But I would like to recommend that we ask questions. We listen. We ask questions again. We listen more. And then when the time is right, we respond. We respond in two ways. The first one is finding the good. So you've already been listening to hear the good things that are going on in your child, to find the things that you can commend, and then to say what needs to be said in that moment. And sometimes they're just straightforward. I think what you said to Joey at school was really rude, and I don't think it was funny. Sometimes we need to say it like that, and we just need to say it. But yeah, this is our role as parents too. All right, I'm going to do a little demo, and Stephen has agreed to help me. So you want to come up here? Woohoo! We're going to do a little role play of the conversational model. Yeah, grab a mic. We want to go. Let me see if I've got another one. I've got it all together. Yeah, there we go. There's the whole thing all together. You ready to do a demo?
We'll give it a go.
Waiting in a situation. What's the conversation that you need to have with your kids sometimes? Anybody from the audience want to throw one out?
Cleaning up their toys.
Cleaning up toys. Okay, I like that one. Anyone else?
Spending too much time with their friends.
Ooh, spending too much time with their friends. What else?
Technology.
Ooh, technology, yes. Any one of these, like, one that you want to go with?
I'm up for any of them. I know all their kids, so I'm thinking about which one am I going to act like.
We're modeling a conversation.
Oh, okay.
We're not modeling discipline that connects, okay?
Okay, that sounds
I'm just
good.
going to tell you
I'm
that.
ready for anything.
So
Let
we're
me
just
know.
going to have a quick conversation. We're going to go around the chart.
Sounds
yeah,
good.
okay. So how old do you want to be? 8?
Oh, I'll be 8 years old.
Okay, we like 8. It's kind of a middle ground, not toddlers, not teenagers. So be 8, and which
Technology.
situation?
Let's do
That's
technology.
a big one, isn't it? Okay, so I'm the parent, And do you want to be on your device right now? So
Sure.
you're just on it?
Sure.
Okay, so you're just on your device, you're doing your thing, and I'm doing my thing and realize, my goodness, he's been on for a really long time. And I haven't been paying attention. He's good, isn't he? He's the best. So I'm just going to pray, Lord, help me to have a curious and lighthearted spirit right now. All right. Hey, Steven. What game are you playing? What game are you playing?
Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers. What do you like about Mario Brothers?
Oh, I love when I get different hats and I can be different things.
Ooh, that would be really fun. Hey, I want to have a conversation with you.
Don't interrupt me. I'm almost done with this level.
How many minutes do you need?
Oh, at least 5.
Can I give you one so that we can just pause it? And I just want to have a conversation for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll pause.
All right, minute went by, pause. All right, awesome. Come on over here. Let's sit on the couch together. Okay.
That's quite a workout.
Tell me what you like about Mario Brothers.
Oh, I love how I can spin and jump and do the wacka.
Woo!
Go the
look at
wacka
you.
wacka and I get 'em.
Awesome.
All those bouncing owls everywhere, I get them.
I know, that's really fun, isn't it? So I'm asking questions, I'm listening, I'm asking more questions. What's another question I could ask about this?
I need 5 more lives to be able to get to the boss battle and be able to survive by the end.
Ooh, 5 more lives. Okay, so how many minutes have you been on it today already?
I don't know. I don't know. I just started and I'm going to go right to the end.
So you lost track of time?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. How many more minutes do you want to spend on it today? Like, how much time do you think you need?
I've got to get past that boss battle guy.
Okay, so I'm going to say what I need to say. We need to agree on an amount of time. So tell me how much time you need, and we'll talk about that, and that's how much, and then we'll decide on that for today. How much time do you think?
I don't know.
Do you want me to suggest something?
Sure, I guess.
Okay, how about 10 more minutes?
How am I going to remember that?
Oh, we can set a timer for 10 minutes for sure. Is 10 minutes good with you?
12?
Sure, I can do 12 minutes.
Oh, great.
Great, okay, I'm going to set the timer. What's going to happen when you're done with that 12 minutes?
Then I'll stop the game.
Awesome. And then you'll be done, and what are you going to do after that?
I don't know. I'll go play basketball or something.
Boom, high five. I love that plan. 12
Okay.
more minutes, then you're going to play basketball outside.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, good job.
Thank
Have
you.
fun playing.
Thanks.
Woohoo! Can you hear how that conversation went so much different than if I was a teller? If I was telling, get off! You've been on that too long. But we just were a team, and we made a plan, and I'm great with that plan. 12 minutes? Sure. And now he's going to go outside and play. That's the conversational model working all together. All right, well done. Thanks. Super good. All right, let's move on. Oh, there was my slide for the role play. Good. Not all questions are helpful, you guys. Not all questions are helpful conversational tools. Now, you may have heard in the past, and maybe if you took communication classes, about open versus closed questions. I don't think that's a super new concept, but it's very relevant for how us parents interact with our kids. So, closed questions close the conversation because most often they only need a one-word answer. A one-word answer. Maybe shout it out, what's often a one-word answer? A yes or a no, right. So that's a Closed or an open question means that the question gives the person an opportunity to answer it any way that they want, and especially in full sentences. Now, you guys, us parents, often, very often, we ask closed questions of our kids so that they can answer them with one word, and yet we want a conversation with them. So here's an example. Where are all my examples? There they are. Was Tori at the bus stop? Answer me with one word. Yes. Was the bus on time? No. Okay, the bus was late. Did you get your President Nixon paper turned in? Good job, yes. Did you have fun at recess? Yeah, yes. Did you have lunch with Josh? No. Yes, either one, right? Okay, so they get home, that's our conversation. And then we're like, oh, okay, well, have fun, go play. And yet we've just asked closed questions. So let's do a little exercise together. Get behind. Let's rewrite this question. Did you have fun at recess? That's a yes or no question. Yes or no. How could we rewrite that? Yes, that's a big tip. Start your questions with what or how. That's another coaching tip. When I was learning how to ask more questions, what or how, that's a good one. What'd you do? Here's another one. Rewrite this one. Is your friend group being nice to each other? Is your friend group being nice to each other? How would you rewrite that? Ooh, how do you and your friends encourage one another? Yeah, what's another thing you could say? Ask.
How do your friends treat each other?
How do your friends treat each other? I love those. There's lots of ways we can ask that allows them to answer it in different ways. Well, there's another type of question that parents can use sometimes that we want to avoid, and that is trapping questions. Trapping questions aim to make a point or to accuse, all right? Did you really brush your teeth? That's a question, but it's a trapping question. Why isn't your room clean? Did you put the empty orange juice carton back in the fridge? I know, thanks for the laugh on that one. It's happened in my house. Okay, so let's redeem these questions too. Let's rewrite that. Why are you so picky? It's a trapping question. Rewrite it. What were you hoping for instead? Yeah, because clearly they wanted to eat something different, yeah. Another one, what is it about tomatoes that you don't like? That was a good question for me when I asked it. Like, oh, maybe I should go down deeper. What is it about this that you don't like? Actually, it was connected to sensory issues with my daughter. Like, oh, there actually is something much deeper. Like, I hate slimy, bleh. It's interesting. Here's another one. Why isn't the grass mowed? What could you ask?
Are you planning on mowing the grass? Is that a trapping question?
No, but what is that? What's your plan for mowing the grass? Yeah. What you been up to today?
That's not a trapping question?
No, I mean, not if it's with a curious heart. Not if it's with a curious heart. Maybe they were, doing other things and they hadn't gotten to it yet. Yep. Judgment would be, I don't care what you had to do, you were supposed to mow the grass. I'm not even open to hearing what you thought was important for your day. Yeah. But what were you? You can hear these differences. It's a heart position that's different. And these are just good. We ask trapping and we ask open and closed questions all the time as parents. So I want to give you some question asking tips. Here is a tip, short and sweet. Short and sweet. So here's some examples. This is so funny. Every time I say it, I laugh. My daughter came home and she was like, Mom, The kids are watching horror movies in band. They put their iPads or their phones on their stand and the teacher doesn't know. I was like, here's a good response. Say more about that. Short and sweet. Say more about that. Oof, here's another one. No, I don't want a banana in my lunch. I don't want to bring bananas to school and eat bananas in front of kids. Keep going. And again, I probably would say more about that. That's yucky. You love hammerhead sharks? You love them? What else do you love? What else do you love? And means just, and, say more. And? Or how about Mrs. Reed gets really upset at school? That's the child saying that. Yeah. What's behind that? What's behind that, do you think? Here's another one. You mentioned whatever it was that your child had been saying. Tell me more about that, right? So I think about when they were really little. Christy showed you her underwear? Say more about that. These are hard things. And I'm saying them because they can be triggers really quick, like 5-year-olds do that stuff. Like, oh, no, pull back. Ask a question. Ask a question and find out more. Here's another one. Repeat a keyword. I love this one too. Repeat a keyword. This is great for when you're in a conversation and you just don't even know where to go. You don't know what to say. You don't know what question to ask or what to do from there. So here's one. My math test was so hard. What do I ask? No, just say, hard? Yeah, I don't think I passed. Oh, and then you can keep going. Or at school, I had the president's book and Jordan grabbed it right out of my hand. Grabbed it? That's all you have to say with a question mark. So you hear it, right? Just one word from what they said. Hey, Mom, they announced the date for prom. Prom? And then sometimes I even add, tell me more about that. How are you feeling about that? Like, what's going on there? Yeah. Omar asked if I could go over to his house and watch a movie. A movie? Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a good movie. I think it's going to be okay. And you get them to go deeper and have that conversation and talk. All right, those are two tips. I'm going to pass that. Try. Let me do a little commercial about connected families before I move on to listening. But Connected Families has lots and lots of resources that we would love you to take advantage of. The first one really is our website. Every week we send out parenting tips, and we have a whole team of people that write these parenting tips. They're biblically based, they're scientifically based, lots of brain science in them. I don't know, maybe raise your hand if you get them. Does anyone? I see a couple of people and some nods. Yeah, usually there's quite a few, but they're packed with information, and all that information goes onto our website. So I like to say that our website is actually like an encyclopedia for parenting, and I see nods for that too. So you can go there and you can type in any keywords, things that you're dealing with, and you're probably gonna find a lot of information there. We also have these weekly parenting tips that I just mentioned. That's how I got to know Connected Families. They're really useful, and you can sign up on our website. We like to say, like, sign up, and if they're useful, great, and if they're not, unsubscribe. It's no big deal for us if you do or not. We have books. So Jim and Lynn Jackson are our founders, and this is their core curriculum. It's a book that's actually back on the table. It's Discipline That Connects with Your Child's Heart. It's a framework for parenting that is biblical and it's memorable. And actually every topic that we address, sibling conflict, entitlement, grace and truth for moms, all of the safety part of this talk that you heard comes actually out of the framework that we teach in here. So we have These books, they're available in the back, but also online on our website. And we also have online courses. So all of the topics that I even just mentioned to you, we have an online course that you can take individually, or you can also take as small groups. And I'm pretty sure there's a 20% discount for all of you. Thumbs up, good. If you wanted to sign up for any of those online courses right now, either as an individual or if you wanted to get a small group around them. So right now, we're just finishing up the Discipline That Connects with Your Child's Heart online course, and we have almost 700 family units from around the world that are taking it. And it's actually on the low end. We run it 2 times a year for groups. You can do it as your own group anytime during the year. Yeah, so, and then parent coaching. So we have a number of coaches that will meet with parents one-on-one when that family has maybe persistent struggles that they just need help with and work through. So, and I always forget to mention the podcast. So has anyone heard of the Connected Families podcast? Yay, more nods. I love hosting the podcast. I'm the producer of the podcast, and that's fun. So if you are, wanting to dive into the Connected Families teachings, that's an easy way to just pop it on and listen. So, good. Okay, I have a bit more, and then we're going to get to questions and answers. All right? So let's move on to listening. Listening is the stethoscope with the heart. There is nothing that says I am for you better than listening. That's just listening, genuine listening. And these coaching skills, these asking and listening skills, are parenting skills. So now you might think this is a little cheesy, but I think it does actually say a lot. 2 ears put together are the shape of a heart. When we listen to someone, it shows we love them. We love them. People want to be heard and understand. Like deep in our core, we all want to be listened to. And so listening to our kids is profound. I said it before, but the goal of listening is to understand, not to agree. That is such a big deal, especially as our kids get older and I have teenagers and we talk about heavy topics nowadays, things that they're learning. The goal is to understand and not necessarily agree. This is where we put on our scuba gear, we get that oxygen tank on, we get curious, and we ask questions, and then we listen. I just want to say to you, parents, just relax. Your value is not in your telling. There's a time to tell, like I said, but your value is not in your telling. And you will be so surprised with how your kids can problem solve their own problems and come up with good solutions. So my daughter in middle school was having such issues with her executive functioning, okay? The organizing of school, getting the assignments, and getting them done and getting them turned in on time, or it would get done and it would get lost in the locker. And so we would sit down, I would get these notes from the teacher, and all my mom shame, like, should I be on top of this? Do I need to manage this for her more? Like, what is my role? Because heaven knows all the emails that you get from all the teachers, right? It's like 50 every single week. And it's like our responsibility to get everything done for our kids. Well, she's struggling with this. And so we would sit down and we'd have these conversations like, Samara, what can we do? How can we help you to get the assignments, to know when they're due, to get them done and get them turned in? And I'm practicing my coaching skills. And so she would come up with a solution, and I would just be like, that is not gonna work. It is just not gonna work. I know it's not gonna work. But what am I gonna do? I want her to grow wisdom. That means I have to allow her to fail sometimes so that she can own her own wisdom. So okay, I think you should try that. So she would start with, some plan that she had for how she was going to organize her papers or do something. And another month would go by and nothing had changed, and I would get more emails from the teachers. And then we would sit down and we would have another little meeting together, and I would ask questions, and I would be listening to understand and working not to tell, because I wanted her to know she was responsible for her grades. She was responsible to get the assignments turned in on time, not me. She had to own that. And so I'm telling you, it took more than a year. It probably took 2 years of her trying different things, failing, and trying something else for her to finally land on a solution that she was going to be able to make work. And you know what, you guys? It was not a solution that I would have ever thought would have worked. Not a solution I would have ever used, ever. And to this day, this is like 4 years ago, she's now a junior. She uses that solution to keep herself organized. And she's doing super duper awesome as a college student in high school. Amazing! All because I stepped back and I asked questions, and then I listened. I trusted her growing in her ability to solve her own problems, to experience the failures so that she would then problem solve and come up with another solution, and so that she could then own the success, own her own success. It was important. It was important for her, but for me too, as a parent. Because also, if you're familiar with Discipline That Connects, that meant she was responsible. And that's a big deal for parents to learn. You're responsible for your actions. So that's how I coached through that. So I had to relax. That was the point of that story. I had to relax and let the anxiety go to allow her to work through this. And it was for over a year. Here's some verses around listening. Proverbs 18:2 says, "A fool does not delight in understanding, but only in revealing his mind." And a fool is not what I want to be. And this one is amazing. John 11:41 and 42, this is the Message translation. It says, Jesus raised his eyes to heaven and prayed, "Father, I'm grateful you have listened to me. I know you always do listen." Jesus loved being listened to. And that's something. Jesus on this earth thanked his Father for listening to him. So I want to go back to that quote by Tony Stoltzfus and read the second half of it. Because here's why. Here's why we listen. I'm going to read the beginning again too. People don't accept critique from people who are not in their corner. People are most open to being influenced by those who accept them and value them. Learning to listen deeply, intently, and intuitively is absolutely vital to influencing them. Which is why we want to listen, because when it does come around to the respond, to say what you need to say, we want to have gotten to the place of influence in our children's lives that they hear us, because there are important topics that we really need to speak into their lives so that they hear us. One was my story around faith with my daughter. And there's lots more, right? Especially in our culture nowadays around value. So what do we listen for? We listen for belief patterns. What's underneath? What's underneath what they're saying? Is there a belief pattern of fear, of anxiety, insecurity, or sometimes good things, motivation, faith, hope is there? We listen for strong emotions. Strong emotions are good indicators that we've hit on something that matters big time to them. The third one is we listen for changes in intensity. Now, this can be just fun, right? So my oldest daughter, the basketball player, what is it now? March Madness. She could not be more excited and more happy that March Madness is really on this year. So she has like 7 brackets created right now, and it's all she wants to talk about, and she talks fast, and she talks excited, and so I clue into that. You love March Madness. It's something that I want to care about too then, so I can join you. And I work hard at that because it doesn't come easy, just saying. We also want to listen for what's not being said. Listen for what's not being said. Sometimes we just really need to ask the Holy Spirit to help us with this. What's going on under the surface with my child? What's going on that they came home with a B instead of a C? Or maybe a C instead of an F, or just whatever it is and whatever the pattern was. What are they believing about themselves because of this fact of what they're telling me? Or how about the friend situation? They come home and they want to tell you about so-and-so said this, and this is how it went at the cafeteria at lunch table. What's going on underneath that in my child? How is it affecting them? And then we want to listen for the good. We want to listen for the fruit of the Spirit. We want to listen for the wisdom that's coming out of them. We want to listen to how they're wrestling with why one friend is treating another friend bad and acknowledge that. I see that you're not comfortable with the way that that friend treated that friend. Do you know that is the Spirit of God living in you? Because you want fairness and you want that person to be treated right. And it makes you feel uncomfortable when that happens. And that is awesome. And I'm so glad to see that because it shows compassion. Okay? You're seeing the good underneath what they're saying and what's going on inside of them. All right, there's also a few things to ignore. Strong emotion. So you might notice it's in both lists. Strong emotion can also be used as almost like, the second one is like a flare, right? It's just, they're using it maybe a little bit even maybe manipulative or something like that, but it's just like these big blow-ups. Don't get sidetracked by them, you guys. Just don't get sidetracked. Stay calm, cool, and collect. You're the scuba diver. You're just down there with your curious heart and your safe spirit. It's okay. It's going to be okay, even if there's big emotion. So big emotions for me, or even flares, they kind of go together where, I don't want to go to youth group. I don't like the band. The band is so lame, the worship band, and I don't want to go, which, were triggers for me. They know how to say the things that are triggers to you, that are going to want you to just get all riled up and get on your TED Talk again. And don't follow that. Or another flare, maybe, I don't care about National Honor Society. I don't even want to join. It's stupid anyway. What? Come on, this could go on your resume, and this is why you need to do it because boom, 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 I want to tell. Calm down. Ignore those flares. Some kids are just experts at them. I've got an expert flare flyer in my house. And then the third one, I want you to ignore your phone. Leave it in your back pocket even when it buzzes. This is the listening time. This is giving your child attention, your attention, saying, I love you enough to listen to you. I love you enough to listen to you. All right. I can remember the time when my daughter was probably 5th grade, and she was, not 5th grade, 5 years old, and she was going on and on about all of her stories. And I remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, stop what you're doing. It's probably on my laptop. Stop what you're doing. Look her in the eyes and listen to her. And I'm telling you, big time changes in our relationship from that. All right, here's the model. Ask, listen, ask some more, listen, and then respond and say what you need to say when you see the good. Here's the final thought for today, and then we'll go to some Q&A. Growing wisdom has a long view. It's grounded in our trust that God is ultimately guiding my child's journey. And that trust helps us to ease our parental anxiety, the anxiety that wants to urgently fix our child's thinking. It's kind of like the way God treated the Israelites in the Bible. It was this long-term view of bringing them to the promised land, or just their journey, right? So I'm not going to try to fix their thinking about this specific thing in this one conversation. I am just going to ask questions and listen, say a little bit, and then move on and wait for the next time. So I don't know about your spiritual journey, but I know I don't have anything huge in my story, but there definitely was some years of my story that I wasn't walking very close with the Lord, and I'm sure my parents were struggling to watch that. I think back to that as I'm now a mom and I'm raising these kids and thinking, wow, God was faithful. He was faithful to me. He was faithful to bring me on my spiritual journey. And so I can rest knowing that God is parenting with me and that God is actually way more responsible for my children's journey than I am. And so I can just be a tool. I can be a tool and I can be relaxed and I can strap on that oxygen tank and be calm, be curious, be lighthearted in this moment because God's going to get them to where they need to be. And He created them with all that they are and who they need to be. So that's it for now. Do you want me to pray to close us out now or maybe at the end and then do questions? Or what would you like, Stephen? Okay, questions. All right. Maybe we have some online, and if any of you want to ask any questions, you could come up to the mic, which then I think will help the people on Zoom to be able to hear it too. Tell me how many kids you have too, and how old they are.
3.
3, awesome.
14, 11, and 9.
Well
Nailed
done.
Our oldest is 14, so you would think that I'd be good at this by now, but I feel like I've got more questions than ever before, which is interesting. But what I wanted to ask you about was just conversationally, how often does it come out that what you thought was the right answer really wasn't even the issue? My wife and I have never argued, but I imagine if we did, it might be because of a misunderstanding
Maybe if
on someone's part,
Yeah.
mine. So I just wonder how often that comes up with this method, that there was something under the surface that you had no clue about, but the process of asking questions and digging deeper really revealed something totally different than you were even expecting.
I think, first of all, I pretty much think there's always things under there that I don't know about. Just always. And things that I don't. And so then when you have to know your kids to know when to talk to them and when they're going to be open. So I don't know if you've gotten to this stage with your 14-year-old, but I'm telling you, 10:30 at night is the time they wake up. Everyone always told me that, but it is very true, and I'm experiencing it. So I have almost rearranged my life to make sure that I'm around and available at 10:30 at night when they want to talk. And that means that things come out then that they wouldn't have come out any other time of the day. He just got his Chick-fil-A gift card, you guys. So come on, there's 13 of them. We're going to... So my short answer is all the time. There's always more underneath there. Yeah, go ahead.
You can still answer if you're.
No, I'm good.
Can you talk a little more about the trapping questions? Maybe some examples? I'm thinking maybe I asked some trapping questions, and so I need to understand it more before I can correct it.
Yeah, trapping questions are judgmental questions that are trying to catch our kids in not doing what we want them to do or behaving in the ways that we want them to behave. And so we're just trying to catch them. So it's almost like, yeah, so they're, what else would you say? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes don't we want to catch them or like help them catch themselves a little bit? So like that's I think where I
Abby, if you could use a microphone, we'd love that.
Yes. I have one.
Okay.
Okay, so don't we want to trap our children sometimes or like
Yeah.
help them trap themselves a little bit?
Help them trap themselves.
So like where is that boundary or I liked what you said about like the heart position. I think that it was important for me to hear, but
Yeah,
I also she has teenagers and I have small children.
sure.
But so if there's different perspectives for that, that would be helpful too.
Yeah, so I would ask, what is the heart position under wanting to catch them? Because from a connected family standpoint, we view the discipline part, which I would say, we would call it the correction part, I guess. We want to grow wisdom. That's the goal of it, is to grow wisdom in our kids. And so it's not necessarily to punish, to catch them in it. So if it's, you haven't cleaned the kitchen, the kitchen's not cleaned and that was the task that was supposed to be done, then is my role to just catch them and punish them as a parent? Or do I want to set them up for success in a way that they are learning wisdom for next time, that they are growing in responsibility? And so that's the difference that I would say is there. Do you have yeah, sure.
Okay, so I have a 18-year-old
Yep.
who likes to remind me that she's 18. And I like to remind her that she's still financially dependent on me. But anyways, she has a serious, I think the term is FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yep.
So she is very social.
Yeah.
And it's her job at 18 to be social. I get it. But I need some sample questions to ask her to not trap her, but help her realize that she's got to find the right balance. And I can't find those questions yet. So I want her to be able to hang out with her friends as often as possible.
Yeah.
But she also, that costs money. So she also needs to have a little bit of a job.
Yeah.
She's still got to worry about school. She's still got to spend time with her family and still got to spend time with God.
Yeah.
And so I need some questions because we as adults struggle with that. So I need some questions to ask her that are not trapping, and that I'm coming from a place of curiosity, and I can help her realize, okay, maybe I don't need to go to Starbucks for the 7th time this week with my girlfriends, you know?
Yeah. I guess what I would start with is what I ended the workshop with. And that is the idea that this is long-range thinking. And that, God parented the Israelites over hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, even till now, and us too. And so my journey of improvement, perfecting, managing my life, all of the different things, right? I still have places where I need to do better at that. And so, so a couple of questions. If you tell her, is she open to hearing it? Is a question to ask. So are there problems to solve? So if you pulled that all apart, what would be a problem that you could have a conversation with her to fix? So if it's a money issue, is the money coming from you for Starbucks? Let's have a conversation around that. If it's her money, she's responsible for it. Because I'm dealing with the same one right now. Well, she earned it. So am I going to allow her to spend all her money on Starbucks and then she has none? Like, this is part of growing up too. And so I would break that down into smaller conversations and really guard my heart to want to tell in a time when she's not going to hear it. Yeah. So if it's social and she needs to be home, then I'm going to be really proactive in thinking about, let's have a conversation because I'm really missing you and I really want us to have some family time. And so what can we do about that this week? Do you have time, let's solve the problem together.
So we have a question online.
Yeah.
Micaiah Olson is wondering, how young generally can your kids be to go from being told to being asked? I feel like the younger they are, the more they just need to be told things, the basics. As they grow older, they gain wisdom. Her boys are 6 or 7, down to newborn, or like 1 year old.
Down to newborn. I use questions from the minute they can understand. Where's the toy? Where's the toy need to go? Oh, good job. Or, right, pick up the toy and put it in the toy box. Pick up your toys. We can ask all sorts of questions. Where are your shoes? Yes, where do your shoes go? They go on your feet. Good. Can you get them on your feet? Yes, awesome. How about, what do we need to go? I did this one a lot when my kids were little. Okay, soccer practice is in an hour. What needs to happen before we can go? What needs to be in your backpack? Water bottle, my cleats, my this. Do you know where all that stuff is? Okay, good, we're set to go, all right? So I'm not gonna then constantly nag, like, do you have your water bottle? Do you have your cleats? Do you have your backpack? Do you have your stuff? No, we talked about it in time for them to get it all together. So, okay, we're gonna leave in 5 minutes. You got everything? Good to go. And I even went so far as not even to check the backpack. So if you missed it,
What do you do then?
what do they do then? They got to practice and they didn't have cleats. I'm sorry. That's age appropriate. That's age appropriate, but. So I think you can ask questions from the minute they can understand. Because we tell so many times, they know what to do. We could be asking.
Let's say they get to practice and they're 6 or 7 years old and they don't have their cleats. Do you take that time then to go through the ask, listen, ask again cycle to gain wisdom? Why don't we have our cleats type of a thing? Or do you wait to do that another time? Or
I would totally wait. I would not do it in the heat of the moment at all. Because they're going to be in some fight or flight and they're not going to even be able to have their full brain capacity to be able to have that conversation. You probably won't either because now you feel embarrassed because all the other moms are like, you didn't get your child's stuff here, right? Isn't that a mom job? So some of it sometimes is kind of fighting culture, to be honest, because we like to helicopter parent. So no, I would have it later. And then the next time it rolls around, hey, remember, we don't want that to happen again. So now it's just a problem-solving conversation again. What can we do? That felt bad, didn't it? Yeah. So what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? Sometimes circumstances teach the lesson. We don't need to add salt to the wound. Yeah. Yay. Is everyone getting their Chick-fil-A?
I've got a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 10, 6, and 4. And my 12-year-old is the only girl. The rest are boys. And
Okay.
she is super quiet, shy, extremely introverted. So I feel like I ask her questions all the time, trying to get her to talk. And I have a very hard time getting much from her. So do you have any tips on maybe there's other ways I need to be asking questions or not asking so many questions? I don't know. Some tips for just that super shy, introverted kid.
Yeah. So the short and sweet, the 2 sets of tips that I gave, I love those because I think they do serve the kids who don't talk a lot and then the kids who do want to talk a lot. Because when you use the short and sweet, tell me more, or say more about that. Or, what's that about? Or actually another one that I wrote down that I didn't say is, what do I need to know about that? Or sometimes I even say, what do I need to know about that? When it's, you tell me what when you ask that way, the kid who talks is like, sweet, here I go. And the kid who doesn't talk so much doesn't feel so stressed out, like mom's trying to drag information out of me. I can answer it and be done with as many words as I want to give. So that's what I would say. And then I would really spend time looking under the surface. What's going on under there? And it might be nothing. They might be just a quieter personality. You know, there's girls who don't want to talk all the time. Yeah. So then that's that lighthearted and curiousness, and being sure that you're not letting the anxiety of her not talking, fill that space. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old,
Yeah.
so younger kids, but maybe just an observation of listening to this is, I think a lot of times as a parent, you want to just solve the issue right
Yep.
away, right? And
Yep.
what's coming out to me is just being patient and not jumping to what the solution that you think it should be right away. So
Yeah.
just maybe more of an observation, and
That's a great
it's helpful.
observation.
so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. Well, that's true with all of coaching, just the field of coaching, is that telling is easy and fast. Yeah, coaching takes more time. It does take more time. But if we want to get out of the patterns of me having to tell every time, we need to get to a place where we're asking the questions and the responsibility is then on our kids. Yeah.
I have another question. So sometimes my husband's method of coaching and my method of coaching
Yeah.
look a little different. And it feels like it has to be dealt with right away. How can you talk about that or like coach your children together? Ours are still pretty young, so like we're figuring it out together. But like, how do you talk about that together or like ask them questions or something so that you're not undermining the coaching? I don't know. It is complicated.
Say more.
We had it this morning. So I'm home with our kids all the time. So I am full-time coaching our children. And he has sometimes a different way of doing it than I do. And so sometimes when he's trying to coach how he thinks it needs to get done, I'm like, well, the 45 hours a week that I'm here alone, it's going differently.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes hard to like I want to communicate sometimes like that's not the expectation that's set for them. So it is kind of hard to make them do it right now like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like how is that like we should only have those conversations when the kids aren't around? How do we get our coaching to like line up together well?
Yeah. Very good to have those kinds of get together conversations outside of your kids' ears, so they're not hearing that and hearing you work that out. That's good to work out. What's going on here? Work that out without them hearing. And then it's really important to understand that we're all parenting out of our own personality styles, our own backgrounds, and we're not going to parent the same way as our spouse, always. So the more you can talk about it, the more you can do, come up with principles, pathways, I guess is what I would say, that you can be on board together, but you can bring your own personalities to that style, the better. And it's one of the things that we actually teach with Discipline That Connects and this whole framework. And the more both parents understand it and learn it, they can use it as a pathway to walk through applying their own personalities. Okay? So there's not an easy answer because both spouses are going to parent in a different way.
I think the great news there is our kids learn. Like, they learn each parent's parenting style. So have faith, have hope. Like, your kids learn to respond the way that the parenting style is dictated, just as they do in a school to their different teachers. So, yeah, don't let it get you down.
Yeah. So have a conversation when it contradicts what you've worked on that day.
Hi.
Hi.
I have 3 girls. They will all be 16 next week.
Triplets?
Yep.
That's so
And
fun.
they're super different, and they all have very strong personalities. Very, very strong. So I've tried really hard the teamwork strategy, right?
Yeah.
I try that, but what do you do when ultimately there's 3? 2 will always go to tug of war in the middle of what we're trying to do.
With
How-
each other, or you?
No, not with me. It's the two of the girls will just start a tug of war in the middle of it, and it's never the same 2, right? It's a 3-ring circus. So how do you? I mean, I've tried different ways. Like sometimes we just have to walk away. This isn't going to work right
Yeah.
now. You know, I try to take the 2 aside. It just never ends. I mean, what advice would you have? It's like we start. It seems like it's going well, and then there's just some trigger. And the 2 that are triggered, tug of war. And then it all goes south.
Number 1, calming strategies for everyone. We spend a lot of time on that. That whole idea of the curious heart, safe, lighthearted place, safe place, there's a lot of work that can be involved in that. And as us parents learn that, we can teach our kids that. And so they're 16. And so, you know, when they got to be teenagers, if we had things like that to work on, I might like sit down and say, like, I'm noticing this pattern that's really not serving us well. Like, you know, what I'm seeing, this is where we say what we need to say sometimes. What I'm seeing is that when we need to work something through, you guys just start fighting. And I want to break this pattern because think this isn't going to serve us well in our relationships into the future. So what can we do about that? What I think is we need to start with learning how to calm ourselves down in that moment. So maybe that's the conversation. And finding those kinds of strategies and then agreeing to them. I think another one is sometimes like you agree to have like a word. You know, when I think my husband and I did this sometimes too, and my kids, but like we're getting heated, someone just says the word, and sometimes it's a funny word, or you know what I mean, whatever it is. It's like, you know, fish and chips. Okay, we just hit a space where we just need to back up. We need to give ourselves 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. And everyone's agreed to that word, so no one's going to get mad at the person for using it. So that could be a good tool to use with them. But I say at that age, be frank and say, we have a problem to solve. How are we going to solve this pattern of interaction? Do you have any follow-up question? No? Okay. Yeah, that's another tip, actually. Take them to Starbucks to have the conversation. I've done it.
Well, one of them, she's obnoxious out in public. Like super loud to the point where everybody needs to walk away from her, so it wouldn't
Okay.
work if she was
Okay.
alone.
You know
But I get
your
the
family? Yeah.
The other 2.
But it could be a treat was the other part of it. It wasn't necessarily being in public. It was, I want to bring something to this conversation that feels good. Yeah. Yeah. One other thing, though, too, is we have an online course called the Sibling Conflict, and it teaches the peace process. Super useful and easy to teach our kids the peace process. Hi. I love all these questions. This is awesome.
I have the same kids as him back there, so there's 3 of them.
Do you remember all their ages?
Yes, well, he told you.
Yeah.
I'll focus on my question because I get nervous. Did you date your kids, and how do you get them to talk on dates? Like, are there certain leading questions? I get a lot of, especially with the 14-year-old boy, like if there's any deep questions, I get an instant, I don't know. So.
Did I date my kids? Do I date my kids? Occasionally, I have. Honestly, I haven't had like a regular schedule of dating my kids, but I haven't needed it. And the reason is because one's at basketball and one, hey, let's go shopping together. We have our own separate connected times that are just naturally in our rhythms. And I have that with both of my kids. So I haven't needed that. But there have been times, and did they talk? They do talk. Both of mine talk when we had dates. So to me, we can't force kids to talk. It's kind of like obedience. It's kind of like the words that come out of their mouth when they're not good and we don't want them to say those things. We can say, you can't talk to me that way, but they actually can talk to we have really no control when it comes down to it. And so all we can do is ourselves, which is the safe and the lighthearted place where we're just being this safe place for them. So when they do want to talk, we throw out a little question. Are they going to take it or not? They might not. But then sometimes they might. And that's partly where I was at with my teenager who's now like talking at 10:30 at night. I'm there. I want to be there when she's ready to talk. Let me tell you, 8 o'clock, she's a grouch. Nothing's going to come out at that time. And if I forced it at that time, yeah. So it's just being really wise. Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
So that guy's my husband. So one of the things I saw with the questions is you said when the time is right to ask those questions. So if you could give me more examples of when the time is right.
Yeah.
I'd like that.
When the time is right. It's a little bit of what I was just saying. It's knowing your child and when they want to talk. It's when you're in a place where you can have a conversation that's lighthearted and curious. Hot button issues that my kids watch some YouTube video or they talk to their friends and it's, a moral value that I hold deeply, and all of a sudden this thing comes out of their mouth where they're starting to believe something I believe and care very differently about. And I catch myself, okay, breathe. I will not engage in that moment because it will not come off well and it will become a me versus you over whatever topic. And it's just about everything it can be these days with teenagers, right? It's like Beyonce. Whoa, I've got thoughts about Beyonce right now. It's not Beyonce, but it could be, anyone of somebody that you like or deeper things. So where's my heart? Am I ready to have a light, safe conversation with my child? Am I ready to listen in order to understand? To listen in order to understand where she's coming from, so that when it comes time for me to say what I need to say, I actually am not in fight or flight myself, but I'm able to be calling on the Lord, like, Lord, help me know what to say right now, so that it will be heard to my kids. So that's when, and I just spent a lot of time on me, and then it's also the wisdom of when my kids will hear and be ready. Like right now when there's a March Madness game on is not the time to have a conversation with my daughter, Yeah.
Because I think what I'm hearing you say is you have to get yourself in a good place first with the Lord and to calm yourself down before you ask those questions. But I think for my family too, and this is really hard for me because I am a very emotional person and I have very emotional children, and then it becomes a very emotional, charged thing. And so, and so I'm thinking do I have to put myself in a timeout first before I deal with all the other things that are going on? Or it's really a hard game that gets played, and when do I move my piece and when can I engage with them at that point?
Yeah, and that's checking yourself and your heart and where you're at. We sometimes say, save it to solve it. And that's with everything. It can be sibling conflict or, just anything that's going on in your house. But I think that it also applies to us when we're seeing behavior, we're seeing things. Save it to solve it. If I'm not ready, I'll bring it up in a few hours or at bedtime or the next morning or whenever the right time is. But I'm being wise about that because I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to, I want to model having a calm spirit and a peaceful spirit. I want to model problem solving. I want to model respect to each other. So there is a bit at stake at the whole calming. And you can be emotional and not hurting other people. I think that there's a balance there. And people know. You'll know. You know that, yeah. Great question askers, you guys. That was fun. We've gone over. Should I close in prayer? Do you want to come up and close in prayer? Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having Connected Families.
Give Stacy a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, let's pray. Dear God in heaven, it's so refreshing to be able to be taught and coached from your word and be able to have Jesus as a model for asking questions with our kids. What a calm model we've had. And thank you for Stacy and the wisdom you've given her to be able to share with us. Help us to move forward asking our own kids questions and be able to instill wisdom within them. So we love you very much, Lord. Amen. Thank you all for being here. Abby has a drawing here. Your names are in here. And we have a book that Connected Families provided for us and 5 magnets that have the framework for Connected Families, which says this: the foundation, you are safe with me. Connect, you're loved no matter what. Coach, meaning you are called and capable. And to correct them. So you are responsible for your actions. So this we have on our refrigerator, and it's a good one to have at hand. Let's start with the 5 magnets, and then we'll have the book at the end. Draw another name. We have one on our fridge.
Dottie. Tad. Yes. And I don't know your name. I'm sorry. Kelly. And Laura. And we have, that was Josh. And Marcia. Heather. Prize for the book.
This is for the book, big drawing.
Jessica.
And if you're a teacher and would like clock hours for this event, Connected Families provided us a 1.5-hour certificate. So it'd be up to your school district if they approve it or not, but it's provided at the back table. So Carla Mosley's at the merchandise table if you're interested in buying the book for yourself, or magnets and other items there. And then Croy Menzel will be sending out a 20% out discount code for any of the online courses that Connected Family provides. This was fun. I'm glad we could be here in person, and then people could also live stream. So have a great afternoon.